Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Justin Jeffress, and I am an evangelist at Amazon, and I teach people how to build Alexa skills. Thank you for tuning in. This is Build an Alexa Skill with Alexa Conversations, pizza reference. Let me mute that other device so I don't have an echo. I'm very happy today to be able to share the streaming pipes over the internet with my esteemed colleague, Nathan Grice. Nathan, would you like to introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do at Amazon?
Yeah, hey everyone. My name is Nathan Grice. I'm a solutions architect on what's called our North Star team, which is we're looking to sort of break barriers with voice and see what next generation experiences we can bring. And I was asked to highlight some advanced features for Alexa conversations with this pizza reference skill.
Yeah, so Nathan built this piece of reference skill, which is really cool. So for those of you who tuned in last week, Sam and I were on going through the pet match skill, and we have a whole step-by-step tutorial for that. The whole point of that project and that tutorial is to help you understand the mental model and the basics of an Alexa conversation skill. And so you can kind of think of it as the Alexa Conversations 101 course. And so then you can think of the content that Nathan created, the pizza reference skill, as 300 level. It takes your knowledge and expands upon it. So I'm really, really excited today to have Nathan on to go through that and talk about all the different advanced techniques that he employed to do some really cool things with Alexa Conversations. So I would say bookmark this. The recording of this will be available when you go to twitch.tv/Amazon Alexa/videos. You'll be able to find this video and watch it. So I highly recommend that you bookmark it and keep, you can use these techniques here today in your own skills in the hackathon. And so before we get into the implementation and what Nathan did, there's a few housekeeping items I wanted to go over before we start. So first of all, I want to mention that the hackathon ends on, or the submission deadline is September 14th, which means you have 19 days left. So September 14th seems like it might be a long way away, but it's only 19 days. So I got the little countdown timer here. It's not exact because I don't have the exact time it ends in this countdown timer, but you have 19 days. So I would say, if you haven't already, you need to make a decision on what it is that you're going to build and start thinking about it, start designing and start building. One thing that I would give some advice on is that, if there's a bit of a manual process in addition to some automated processes that go into certifying your skills. And so you want to make sure that you beat the rush, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to submit their skill on the last day. And because of that, it's going to take some time for all of them to be approved. And then not only that, but it's very rare that your skill gets approved on the very first attempt. So you want to eliminate some of that risk of not getting it in right away, and beat that rush. So if you submit your skill a couple days before the September 14th deadline, you're in a good position. So every stream I like to give you an update on how many days there are, just so you're not going, oh, that's fine. It cuts down on the ability to procrastinate. So for those of you who are tuning in for the first time and you're unaware of the hackathon, here is the sign up page for the hackathon. Goldzilla says pressure. It's not really pressure, just trying to give you a heads up so that way you don't have pressure or stress. Right now you've got 19 days. You don't have as much stress. It would be much more stressful if you had 24 hours and you haven't submitted yet. That's the high pressure, high stress situation. Right now we're good. So I just dropped in the chat the link to the sign up for the hackathon, and there's a whole bunch of different references and things here. We've got the different prize categories. There's $101,000 in prize money that you can win for a bunch of different categories. There's eligibility requirements and everything like that. The judges are also listed here. And then also there's this resources tab. And on the resources tab, there's a whole bunch of great references and things that you can refer to throughout the competition or the hackathon. And there's also, I like that Oxygen Box says, I'll procrastinate later. I love statements like that.
I like it.
And so I just dropped the link into the chat here to sign up
One second.
for, there's a Slack group. And the Slack group here is, a great group where you can go and get your questions answered regarding Alexa Conversations. Myself is in there, Sam is in there, Nathan's in there. A few of you in the chat that are talking on Twitch, I recognize your screen names. You're in there too. So if you're not in there and you have questions and you're unable to make it to our office hours, you can go into that Slack group. Also, tomorrow, Nathan is going to be our AMA guest. So every Wednesday at 9, we do an AMA. And so Nathan will be answering your questions. So, for those of you who are tuning in from home and you missed the live stream and you have a question for Nathan, you can tune in or use that link that I just pasted, sign up for the Slack group, and at 9 a.m. Pacific time, Nathan will be live in the in that Slack group answering your questions about the pizza reference skill. Cool. And now the next thing I wanted to mention is the contest office hours schedule. So this here is an outline of all the different streams and things that we're doing. So if you scroll to the 25th, that's today, you see here that Nathan are right on schedule. We're tearing down the pizza ordering skill. Now it says that we have an hour here. We're probably going to go about 90 minutes. So, the times here are not exact, but we have some content that we want to cover, and we care more about that content and how we deliver it to you more than we do about the time. Now, keeping with the pizza reference, we're gonna deliver it to you in less than 30 minutes, but it's probably gonna take us. We're gonna deliver more than 30 minutes worth of content. All right, cheesy pizza jokes, extra cheesy. All right, so with that, I think that concludes all the announcements I had. Oh yes, for those of you who haven't seen it yet or haven't gotten started, here's the link to the pet match tutorial. You can use that to get started. If you're watching this video and you haven't done that, and this is your first time knowing anything about Alexa Conversations and you're feeling a little overwhelmed, I would say take a look at that. And then you can pause this video, take a look at that, get up to speed, and then come back to this video if you like. Oxygen Box says, if you don't deliver in 90 minutes, is the pizza free? Well, this content is free, so I think you're already getting a great deal. Floyd, that's Franklin. Franklin Lob is tuning in. He says, is part 1 and part 2 a repeat, or will the content spill over into part 2 on Thursday? Part 1 and part 2 are not repeats, so it's going to be totally fresh new content. So I'll let Nathan talk about which specials he's going to be offering between the 2 different days. So cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nathan.
And just
yes,
Justin, did we do a mic check? Can everybody hear us okay?
Oh,
or
yes.
the levels are...
I forgot to ask about that. Yes, are you able to hear me, Nathan? Are they able to, like? I think when you introduced yourself,
loud and clear, so to speak.
Yep. Everyone says sounds good. I think during your introduction, if they couldn't hear you, they would have said something. So I think we're good. All right. So one thing I figured out this time is how to get Nathan's screen captured and shared. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to Nathan's screen. So there we go. So this is we're ready for you to take it away, Nathan. Go for it.
Yep, and you guys can all see Justin, just so you know, I can't see the chat stream window just because I have so many things going on.
Okay.
If there's any problems, people chime up and say, "Hey, I can't see what you're talking about." Just interrupt me and let me know.
Yep,
hopefully you see this. Okay. Yeah, hopefully you guys all see the slide that says multi-turn skills with Alexa Conversations, pizza reference skill. If not, let us know. So yeah, this is just going to be a real simple, it's not actually a presentation as much as it is just a list of topics we want to cover. So the first thing I think we probably, well, first let me back up and talk about pizza reference skill and why we decided to tackle this. As Justin mentioned, it was a little bit more along the lines of uh, advanced concepts, more complicated dialogues, more multiple APIs doing different things to kind of show you how Alexa conversations can be stitched together to generate a model that can be, more dynamic, more fluid, and maybe less directed than a traditional interaction model, right? Where you're sort of controlling the states and the flow of everything. And if something breaks, or the user asks a different question that you're not prepared for, you have to account for that, and sometimes that experience isn't great, or the you have to spend a lot of time, fortifying that interaction model to make it, really robust, right?
Hmm.
And that can lead to some poor experiences up front. So conversations, the idea is, you handed a set of phrases, you handed a set of questions that the user might ask, that lead to a goal. And sometimes those goals can be interspersed amongst an end goal, and we'll see some of that today with the pizza ordering. But why pizza ordering? And food ordering is typically a challenge with voice, right? People have There's lots of modifications, there's lots of preferences, subtle differences that make it extremely challenging for a language model to get all of that right. And so we thought that conversations would be a good technology to showcase how, there's a little less work up front to sort of account for all the different ways a user would ask for something, and also rely on something we'll cover later on called the context, which is, the runtime model
Hmm.
that was generated from the dialogues that you build and the APIs that you tell, your the system that it's, which is the goal, right? We're kind of using the word API and goal synonymously here. Is
Right.
that, hey, I have a goal that I want to order a pizza. Okay, well, that pizza needs some things before, or that order, before you can execute an order, you need some things. You need a size, and you need a um,
Right.
crust, and you need to know about the cheese and maybe some toppings.
Yeah.
And
And
there's a chance users would ask, "Oh, go ahead. You
what?
got
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
Justin?"
Yeah. One thing that I want to expand upon, that you mentioned, that we're using API and goal sort of synonymously here. But one thing to note is that that you're not limited to one API per goal, right? Like, you can kind of think of it as like the API, like there is one like major API that you're trying to hit, which is like, in the course of ordering a pizza, placing an order or adding that order to your shopping cart. But you might need little sub APIs partway through to perform that goal. And you have some examples of that in the pizza reference skill. And that's one thing, I've seen people asking on Slack and in the chat rooms and stuff, like, say I've got an inventory of items, and the user asks for something that is no longer in inventory. How do I report back that, hey, that item has sold out? And what you would have to do at that point is have a sub API, another API that you're going to invoke based upon that slot value that the user gave, and respond back. And I believe you do that in the pizza reference skill, in not so much checking inventory, but with checking how many people a certain size of pizza will feed. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think maybe one thing to clarify and understand is that this collection of dialogues, and I probably should move on to more interesting screens so we can follow along.
Oh, I've
Um,
got us
but-
full. So let me know, and I'll switch over to your desktop if you're going to switch.
oh, okay, no worries. Yeah, we'll make sure to cover this again, but I just really want to quickly mention that when I first started working in conversations, especially annotating dialogues, I thought that they were, de facto representations, kind of like a interaction model. It's like user says this, Alexa says exactly this, and so on and so forth. And then what you learn is all of that is just training data for an AI, generated model, right? And what it's doing is predicting the next step. And this is where the term context comes into play, right? Which is, but when you add example dialogues that have these permutations in them, right? At any point, the user might say, "Hey, what kind of crust do you have?" This kind of menu question concept, right? You don't know when that might happen, and you can model it in the dialogue at any point, and it's kind of a hint to the AI that says like, "Hey, at some point, the user might ask this kind of question," and what it means is you're switching to a different goal, which is to ask a menu question and return a list of options, speak those options, but then sort of drop you back into the previous context of ordering a pizza. Same thing with the how many people can this feed? And I've got specific examples of this in the code we can review. So I mean, I think with that, I'll just get to some of the meat here, and we can discuss these concepts of how the model it has this appearance of linearity in when you design. It's like, oh, it looks very directed,
Mhm.
when in fact the models, all of the sample dialogues that you provide actually get sort of flattened in and get equal opportunity to be predicted by the model based on your training data. So the more what we call golden dialogues, which is the surface form dialogues that you see in the console, the more of those you provide, the more hints the model gets that's like, hey,
Yeah.
the developer's given me like 3 or 4 examples of a user asking, "What kind of drinks do you have?" or "How many people can that feed?" So I can be prepared to answer or to hear that question at any point in these dialogues, and return back to the previous goal. And we'll show some examples. So get back to pizza and food ordering in particular. So lists. This is something that was previously really, really hard to achieve in interaction models. Now, custom skills, regular interaction models also launched multi-value slots, which is an analog for this, but it's just sort of a built-in feature for Alexa conversation. So let me flip over to the console. I think, oops, that is not the right window. How about there? Can you guys see my browser window now?
I can see it. There's a little bit of a delay, so I think it'll take them a few. Before you get started, there was a good question in the chat that says, "This is from Robert William Halan." Says, "My big conceptual question is, am I right in assuming Alexa Conversations doesn't replace intents altogether? The pizza reference skill has 20 plus intents too, along with conversations." Um,
That's right. That's a great question. So one of our specific goals with this example was to highlight something called delegation, and we'll cover delegation. It's one of the 4 topics that I have to cover today. So I'd like to cover list slots, the concept of context. The third one is delegation, and finally confirmation templates. So delegation is the ability for a developer to manually hand off via their Lambda function to the interaction model and to Alexa conversations.
right.
And so when we were conceptualizing this, and again, conversations, we were chasing a moving target during development. As you can imagine, the product is in public beta right now. So pre-public beta, we're sort of, and part of the job of this pizza reference skill was to exercise the platform in ways that other more simple examples weren't doing, right? So we're sort of pushing the envelope constantly. Um, and so originally it was like, let's build the entire thing in conversations. And so that was challenging at the time. And so we thought, well, wait, what if we treat the dialogues as effectively a function? From a developer's perspective, is like, I've got a function that returns a prime number, for example, some random prime number. So I don't have to rewrite that code every time. I just call the function. So in this case, it was like, I've got a function that orders a pizza, and when I get to that step in the interaction model, I'm just going to hand it off to conversations, and it returns a pizza to me. Now, the conversations piece of it, the dialogue and the context handles fulfilling all the required elements to order a pizza. In this case, we constrained it to size, crust options, cheese options, and a list of toppings. That's kind of your standard base pizza order. And in that case, we'll show examples in the code where we do some things up front that um, maybe lend themselves to an interaction model. And this is a trade-off. I think it's a valuable trade-off to learn is that I kind of started taking the design pattern that things that resembled one-shot invocations, and there's examples in the interaction model of this. Um, and I'll go ahead, and a lot of these are the built-ins just because we have screens and stuff. Get hours intent, for example. This is just a simple, hey, I want to see the the store hours. That's for my closest pizza location, right? Um, and there's some other ones where you hear the daily specials, right? This is when you launch the skill, because we don't have
Oh,
Alexa conversations selected.
hey Nathan,
Sorry.
could you make your
Yeah.
text just a little bit bigger? It's a little hard to see.
Sure. No worries. Is that better? Let's
Yes,
see.
I think that looks great.
Okay.
And
I shifted stuff over a little bit, but I think it'll be okay.
yes, and I can move our. If we're in the way, I can also do this, and they should still be able to hear us. So I'll monitor the view and make sure that we're not obstructing anything if you're talking about it.